Okay, good morning, everybody, and a big welcome to our second session within the Henley Inside series this morning. For those of you who have just joined our session here, I'm joined by our esteemed Programme Director, Dr. Suzanne Pollock, and she's going to obviously introduce a session around becoming the leader you want to be around our flagship leadership programme, which will give some detail around helping you understand yourself as leader and develop your personal leadership skills. And Suzanne will also be joined later on in the session by an esteemed alumni of the programme, Billy from the MOD. So without further ado, I'm now going to pass you on to Suzanne for this part of the Henley Inside session. Over to you, Suzanne.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Well, I'm just really pumped up here by listening to Narinder, and I was just so delighted to see some of the nice feedback saying, what a brilliant session it was and everything. And hi, Jay. Hi, Richard. There are people who I've connected with already who are in there saying hello to me, which is really good. This session is, as you can see, is a bit about what's holding you back. I guess it's building on Narendra's lovely observation about the Jack Welch destroy your business. So the link for me there is very much around what can we do to be even better versions of ourselves. That's what we're all about on the leadership program. How can you be the best version of yourself, that you want to be? That doesn't mean all the time, but more of the time. And that's what the program is all about. And what's really lovely listening to all the piece about strategy, and I love it's about the unfolding encounter between intention and chance. The unfolding encounter. And it's when do we hold ourselves back in that encounter? When do we not do things intentionally? When do we sort of think something, oh, that's wrong-footed us, and then perhaps not the best of us comes out? So for me, that metaphor of this horse is just, it's running free, its ears are in the right place, it is doing what it was born to do. And it seems to me it's doing it beautifully with the hair and mine doesn't look like that when the hair is in the wind, as it were. But so that's what I'm kind of trying or going to convey in this session, is a bit about what's it like when you're in that flow state, like that horse, and how can you be that more often, and share some of the ways that we get to that on the leadership program. I think it's really nice to hear that learning is so much a part of how you make strategy happen, and it's about the conversations and the interactions with people. And I think it's rather nice that I follow Narendra's piece about that, because that's, if you like, the context. And now we're in there, well, how do we make this happen? And specifically, how do you make this happen for yourself? I'm currently working with a huge global business with an 8 billion turnover, who's second in marketplace in small domestic appliances and things like that, to another huge business that's 8.1 billion turnover last year. But both of them are facing the new player on the block that has, how do I destroy their businesses, is basically its mantra, and its name actually reflects that. Who has gone from kind of very small to having half of their turnover, 4 billion. And so they're now looking to us and saying, right, okay, we really need to get our people galvanized around that and around what they want as well as what we want. And kind of that's what the Leadership is program is all about. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about this morning, and hopefully interact with you as much as possible. Piece about me is I find it deeply disconcerting that I can't see you and that I can't interact with you, because that's how we work. But nevertheless, I'm going to hold the picture of you all running free like the horse and finding something that you can use from this conversation, which is simple and effective and makes a big difference to your life. So that is the plan as we move forward to using some Slidos and things like that. So, a question we ask right at the beginning is what's going on for you right now? Because there can be so much at so many different levels. There will be the stuff that's going on inside, the stuff that other people is telling us, and then there's what's happening in the world and the marketplace. And I'm not going to really talk about the world because otherwise we'll get very sidetracked, and I might go on a rant about a man beginning with T, but we'll just keep going. So, what's going on for you right now? So, one of the things that might be going on is that you've got 5 screens, 4 screens, 3 screens open, and you're hoping to maximize your value from this presentation while doing 3 other things. And all I can offer on that front is what the wonderful Claire said, is actually finding that place where you can walk by the river, relax, eat too much nice food, and just generally slow your mind down and focus on one thing is where the learning and the gig is really at. And that's obviously one of the things we're offering. So, what's going on for you right now, which is potentially splitting your attention? What's actually happening? That's a question that we pose right at the beginning of the program, so that people can begin thinking at different levels about what's going on for them. And that moves us forward to one of our favorite things, this gorgeous little girl. How can we stay curious longer? So, for example, I was coaching one of the alumni yesterday, and we were having a conversation about his role. One of the models we use very loosely, because like Narendra, they're there as a backdrop to help clarify our thinking rather than to drive our thinking. And he was talking about how busy he was. And so I was thinking, well, if you're an executive team member and you're really, really busy, how much time will you be spending helping your team to develop and individuals to develop? So when I asked him that question, he gave me a Teams answer, but managed to switch it to, well, I talk to individuals about the task and I talk to teams about the task. But I said, but I think we might have gone down a rabbit hole. He goes, oh, now I'm stopping to think about this. I see what you mean. Am I having conversations with individuals about the task, or am I having conversations with them about them and their hopes, their dreams, what they want to develop, how they can help move things forward by really bringing the best of themselves and continuously learning, etc. So there's something about, I think, you yourself being curious with others and also being curious with yourself. Oh, I think I got rather annoyed when so and so said that. What's that about? So noticing, and we're very much, I guess, on the program about embodied. What do you notice is happening in your body when you get tense or when you get angry? Because if you are having negative emotions, you can't hear what's being said. So a big part of what we're doing is actually helping people to check in with themselves. So back to that point about split attention. If you're looking at 15 screens at the moment, or well, 15 is an exaggeration, but 3 or 4, you will not be getting value or giving value to any of them. You certainly won't be giving the best of yourself. Neuroscience has dispelled the myth that neither men nor women are good at multitasking, and the brain really only fires well when it's fully focused. So some food for thought there for all of us. I'm constantly reminding myself of that when I try to pretend I'm female and I can multitask. So we're now going to have an opportunity for you to kind of reflect, and give some thank you. Perfect. The Slido is there. Best describe in one word what's going on for you right now. If you want to use 2 words, can I suggest you answer the question twice? Because when you've answered it with your 1 word, what's going on for you right now, you will have a possibility of putting another word in. If you're feeling incredibly keen, maybe just stick to 2. We're nearly there. I think we have. Well, thank you so much for filling that in. And isn't that brilliant? It's really, really interesting. There's a mix of stuff going on there, and I think stretched and busy and anxious is balanced with hopeful and curious. But I can see that the stretched is in the busy, there is in the middle there. And bless those of you that are in pain, or fearful or tense. And hopefully you'll perhaps be less so by the time we finish this session this morning. There is a lot going on out there. And I think one of the quotes we use on the program is from a monk in sort of ancient times, saying, when I was a young man, I thought I could change the world. As I got older, I realized I couldn't change the world. So I thought I'd try with my town. I realized I couldn't change my town. And then I realized, well, I'll have a go with my family. I couldn't do that either. And I finally realized that the only thing I can change is myself. But in changing myself, I can influence my family. We can influence our town, we can influence our situation, and so on. And so I really think that wherever we are, there is always something that we can do with ourselves to bring the best of ourselves to, whether it's a wonderfully creative and hopeful situation, or something where feeling incapacitated or stressed or fearful. It's absolutely fine to be in any of those places. And I think it's even better if you can think of a way out of those places. And that's what I'm hoping my next slide will show. So if we quickly go to the next one, this is one of my favorite photos. I had real fun. We don't really use PowerPoint so much on the program. We use it a bit, but had real fun finding slides that I wanted to show you and or share with you. And one of them is this wonderful reflection in the water where we've got our leopard, and they're kind of springing for action, as it were, and seeking out what's going on. And just a lot of what we're doing is reflecting that back and saying in a curious way, oh, that's interesting. What's going on for you there? And then as we move into the next, brilliant. The benefit of feedback. So one of the ways that we can sort of reflect back what someone has said, what someone is asking about, how they're feeling, is to think about, so what's going on for you? This is coming to be an anagram of koi. What's going on for others? So how are they seeing you? And we do that through a 360 process. And what's going on in the wider world? And I think, as I said, you can always change your reaction to what's going on. And we do focus quite a lot on things around that. So, for example, how you can change your breathing, how you can change your posture, how you can change the pictures in your head, the things you're saying, the things you're hearing, your self-dialogue. Really simple things that make a big difference to you understanding what feedback you're giving yourself, what feedback others are giving you, and what the context is telling you. We have a deliberately 5 days +2. And when in the sort of 8 weeks gap between the two, people are applying what they've experimented with on module 1 and then coming back and applying it and saying how that's gone. And one of the things we always say when people come back is that you can really change mindset. You can really start interacting with others differently. But sometimes the context you come back to makes it very difficult to make a lot of progress. And that's fine, because you've already made the important progress and you've got that learning, flexible mindset and ways of moving from maybe a positive energy to, or a negative energy to a positive energy, and so on. So thinking about how you can be coy. So what went on for me today? What could I have done differently? What did I do really well? And I think for those of you that are tough on yourself, really thinking about what did I do well. We would love that, because again, neuroscience, the negatives stick like Velcro. They're 5 times more likely to lodge in your brain. But the one thing you did well is a bit like Teflon. It slides gracefully off the pan onto the floor. It might like my pancakes the other day. They weren't too bad, actually. My husband did take over, so all was well. But so what can I do? How can I be curious? How can I reflect? How can I slow my thinking down, particularly in phases of overwhelm? A former boss of mine at Henley, although I'm now an executive fellow, so not there all the time at the lovely site, but former boss of mine at Henley used to say to me, I will be at my busiest and most stressed when you see me with my feet up on the desk and my hands behind my head, and I look like I haven't got a care in the world. And I thought, what a brilliant idea. He was called Colin, and I know he wouldn't mind me saying that. Colin, put yourself in a nice, relaxed position as an antidote to feeling stressed. So, thinking about the others piece here and thinking about the feedback piece and how you engage with feedback, we're going to have another word cloud now. And this is about describing how you felt on receiving your most recent piece of feedback. So whatever the feedback was, how did you feel on receiving it? Please, if you wouldn't mind having a go. Brilliant. And we're now going to ask you, before I say anything else, and this will give you a chance, I think there's a couple more people just popping some answers in, is to actually think with the lens the other way round. What is it like, or how were you feeling? Or no, let's start again. Describe your intention when giving a recent piece of feedback. So that's how some feedback has landed in different ways for different people. And now I'm going to move you to another Slido. What was your intention when you gave a recent piece of feedback? What were you intending, please? And we're going to put these two slides together for you now. So if we move on from this slide, which is still evolving, and in a moment we're going to compare the two, because my guess is that, oh, wow, so fast, that's brilliant. There was some very technical stuff going on in the background to enable that to happen, so well done, thank you. But what I'm sure you notice straight away, if we say we look at the giving feedback, is nobody said in there, I want to embarrass someone. I want to make them so disbelieve it. I want them to be annoyed. I want them to be embarrassed. I really want to do. Nobody said anything of that. So there, back to this thing about strategy and intention and intentional behavior. The intentions we have around ourselves and other people are often really brilliant. I mean, developmental, supportive, encouraging, those are all really nice things. Although there's both, oh, boosting. I was going to say boasting's not so good. I have keep changing my glasses. You may notice my eyesight's not what it used to be, but boosting, those are all really positive. And yet, imagining that most of the people who gave feedback to you were looking for the energized, curious, accomplished, and unfortunately, some of them went sideways on that. These are sorts of things we start to think about. So, what's the difference between the intention I have with myself and other people and what actually happens? And one of the things I'd really like to say is it's got to start with you. So I don't know how many of you love to be perfect. If you were in the room, I'd get you to put up your hands if you were of a mind to. But if you love to be perfect, you probably don't acknowledge ever that you have done something well. And then you might, in a few sentences later, and I don't have the level of confidence I would like to have. And that's another question we often ask on the program on a scale of maybe 1 to 10. So 1 is no confident, and 10 is I could walk on the moon or do something really, powerful and exciting. Where are you on that scale? And some people will be 2, 3, some people will be 5, 6. But what would enable us all to feel our best most of the time and feel confident? Because without that confidence, you can't be, if you like, if leader is a tightrope walker between point A and B, if you are wobbly, you've got problems because there's enough wobble going on from where you've come from and where you're trying to get to. So I love that analogy. If the leader is the tightrope walker and you're taking people from A to B, how do you create yourself a solid platform? Yeah. So for those of you that had less positive experiences of feedback, it might be worth thinking, what was the positive intention? What could be the positive intention of the other person? And if there genuinely isn't one, then I think there's a conversation around what place does that person have in your organization, or how can you help them to see that when they are just totally destructive, it's really unhelpful and will take you further and further away from where you as an organization want to be. The really difficult gig is this gig in the middle where you are thinking about who I am, how I want to be, and also being able to be embarrassed at this point, because we all are. The lovely Rebecca asked me this morning, are you a bit nervous about this? I said, I'm always nervous. Whenever I do anything and it starts, I'm nervous because if I wasn't, I don't think I care. And if I don't care, I've got a problem. And mostly in my career, I arrive slightly anxious and then go into the flow of the horse. The background disappears and I'm focused on what's happening with the horses in front of me, which is again to my chagrin that I can't see you and you're not horses. I get that. Again, if we now move this forward, what happens as we progress through the week on the leadership program, we start to get to root cause with people. We do that in a combination of the feedback people have completed on themselves through psychometrics, the feedback others have given on them, asking people to notice what's going on for them. And we have some great coaches, we tutors, there are 3 of us who are there the whole time, and then we have others coming in. We tutors also put coaches hats on, and there's possibilities for coaching touch points right through the week, so that you've got this kind of, so what's going on here, big picture, and then what is specifically going on with you, and how can we get into the roots of this wonderful mango grove, and really get kind of prune the negative ones, the ones that don't sustain and support you, and really put all the energy into the ones that do support you. It makes me think of this next picture we're going to show you. How do they do that? It's extraordinary. How much work has gone into creating the possibility. Mangrove, thank you, Al. How much work has gone into the possibility of doing that? What sort of choices of those ballerinas, or what's the lead ballerina man? Sorry, but anyway, ballet dancers, I'll just say. What choices have they made to get to that position? What attitude have they had to have to their work, to their bodies, to their lifestyle? And how narrow or focused have they been? And that kind of really makes me think, so what is my focus? What do I want? I feel blessed that at an early age, I kind of worked out that I want people around me to be the best versions of themselves they can be. I want them to be happy. I want their families to be happy. I want them to create a positive impact on the world and on themselves. And I think to do that, you have to focus in on what you want. You have to really apply yourself to that. And it has to be through choice. So, what are my choices? How do I keep moving forward? And at certain points in your career, what got you here won't get you there. It will mean that I need to drop that behavior because actually doing is not going to help me anymore. I'm now the manager of the ballet corps rather than the ballerina. And there's something about balance in all of that. When have I gone too far and when not far enough? And I think that tension is all about leadership and managing ourselves. Another way of thinking about it is, and I'm not sure because I'm conscious of the time rolling on, but if we move on to another perspective, these wonderful salmon, I think they have to be very clear on what their purpose is. It's survival. They're going upstream to lay their eggs. They are totally committed to that because presumably if they don't get there, that's the end of that line of salmon, if you like, DNA. And is your attention, which I've been talking or alluding to, is it full attention or is your attention split? Very much as Narendra was saying, if you don't have a direction, then who knows where you're going? And on the other hand, how you hold that direction lightly and agilely, and you're prepared to have another go, a bit like the salmon. I believe all of that is part of what we are hoping will help people change their lives for the better. And that's one of the comments we very often get on the leadership program, changing myself, changing my life. Next, if we could, please. This is a very, very quick one. How committed do you feel? I'm in a light coma or I'm a cheetah waiting to pounce. How committed do you feel to whatever it is you need to do right now, or even to this session? Yay, I'm going with that. One person has gone for 100% or 9 out of 10. Brilliant. And if you come down the lower end as this poll emerges, it's what do I need to be doing to pull myself back up? How can I get as close to a 10 as I possibly can? Which leads me to my final slide. We'll just let that one take care of itself because I'm very keen to hand over to Billy. So be coy and then you can. It's 2 acronyms that came out of me saying, what do you think about yourself? What do others think? What's the context telling you? The feedback one. And then what choices can you make? What attitude do you have? And are you focused on what you're doing, narrow in your focus? And without further ado, I have the wonderful Billy here who has been on the program. She is general counsel or a general counsel in MOD. Apology, Billy, I'm a couple of minutes late, so you take your time in your session, but thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be invited back here. Henley Business School, the Leadership Programme, 14th of March, 2023. It was as if the seminar room floor opened up beneath me. I burst into tears. Surrounded by my new friends on the programme and looking around at my course leaders, I fled. I ran out into the grounds of the beautiful Henley Business School. I headed for the river. I jumped. No, of course I didn't. No, don't be daft. But at least now I've got your attention. So that was day 2 of my experience of the leadership programme. And when I think about it now, I reflect on it as my moment. It's a real pleasure to be invited back here to tell you about how the course impacted me. And I can genuinely say 2 years later, I still think it's the best course I've been on. And you might wonder whether I've been paid to say that. No, I really haven't. I think the course is truly personal. And like you, I'm sure you've been on a bunch of courses and they vary, but I still hold this one particularly close to my heart. So let me tell you a bit about my background and what led to my moment on the course. So having graduated from Leeds with a degree in politics, I chose to pivot towards the law. So 20 years ago now, I started as a trainee solicitor at an international law firm in London, and I soon learned to toughen up. My work was continually red-penned by partners of the law firm, and I joined meetings where, to be honest, it all sounded Japanese to me. It was a truly high-performing environment. We regularly worked until 2 o'clock in the morning to meet deadlines. We'd get a cab home and then do it all again the next day. I developed to become a litigator. I hung out in the High Court in London, dealt with multi-million-pound construction disputes, and I loved it. But after 14 years of that, and by now with a 7-year-old son in tow, I was tired, really tired. I was being offered partnership, and I didn't know if I could or should do that for the rest of my days. So laying on the sofa, I caught sight of an advert which said unique construction lawyer opportunity. So in 2017, I threw my life upside down and I joined a division of the MOD where I became an in-house lawyer. I grew to become head of legal and I loved it. Now, I was also dealing with a significant side order of a contentious divorce. So it was a busy spell in the run-up to arriving in Henley at the business school. But I arrived, joined the course, turned up in my survival suit, which I'd safely developed over the previous few years. And in theory, I was doing really well. I'd got a great career, got a beautiful son, it was all going swimmingly. But soon enough, the course leaders started to dig a bit deeper. So what happened in my moment on day 2? Well, it was an interactive exercise. And as Suzanne has said, there's a lot of feedback that's gathered as part of the course. So you arrive and you've got a lot of data around you. You've got 360 feedback. You've got a lot of self-assessment, which digs into your personality type. So the exercise was to divide up into small groups and look at a whiteboard, which had a bunch of numbers on it, and you had to try to identify yourself in the numbers. Now, my eye kept drawing to something that looked like it was a person who was probably quite cold, probably quite cold-hearted, possibly even dead, I wondered. So we had to try and identify ourselves, and my group were doing quite well. They could see themselves, and I had a horrible feeling that the cold-hearted person might be me. So I walked back to my desk, opened my booklet, found my scores. Sure enough, I had become truly cold-hearted, possibly even dead. Worse than that, though, we've talked about data. That quantitative data was starting to be backed up through some qualitative data, because whilst my feedback from my colleagues was ostensibly glowing, there were a few bits that I wasn't quite sure about. I was seeing comments like, Billy needs to smile more, let her guard down, and Billy can be a little pokey. So taking all of this together, I started to wonder if I even liked myself. I wondered what it would be like to work with somebody like me. She sounds a total pain in the WhatsApp. So I used the rest of my time on the course with Suzanne and her fellow coaches and with my cohort who were soon becoming firm friends to work out, how have I got here? And also, more importantly, what would a better version of myself look like? So I started to consider what was working, what was missing, what did I need to do more of? What would it take to become the leader that I wanted to be? So I carried on with my course, did my homework, and I'm pleased to say that 2 years on from the course, I think I'm in a much better place. So I had some feedback. It's our end of year review period. And I heard that the exco within my part of the business believes I'm working with a greater palette of colours as a leader. And that sunny image is just wonderful, particularly on a sunny day like this. And to add to that, I remain loyal to my best self. I lead with my heart now, as well as my head. And as I go about my daily business, I continue to refine that model of my best self. And I pick up phrases that kind of support me in that journey. And I'll share two with you. Accountability does not die with warmth. And also, I like this one too, biking with a mother's heart. So now, as General Counsel of one of the government's largest infrastructure programs, I use my best self as much as I can. And I think I've concluded that that best self is caring, collaborative, and courageous. So I appreciate all my colleagues' good efforts, and also I continue to call them out, but with a good dose of humour alongside it. My outdated approach of iron will, a metaphorical punch, that's gone. But of course, change is a pub crawl, and I don't always get it right. But I think without attending the leadership programme, I would have continued to get quite a lot wrong. So I'd really encourage you to consider attending this course and look for your own moment if you join that course. I truly believe I've become the next version of myself because of the course. So if you do join the course, I'm not saying it'll be comfortable, but I definitely look back on my moment, not as a desperate moment, but now as a magical moment. Thank you, Suzanne.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Billy. I think it's been summed up for you in the feedback there, where it's been said, this is a cracking masterclass in telling a story. Thank you. I think that is just superb. Thank you so much. And it is such a pleasure to be part of that journey and part of your ongoing journey.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Absolutely, Billy, let me echo those sentiments. Thank you very much for sharing those insights from the programme, but also the journey that you've been on during the programme and subsequently. So really do appreciate the time and preparation that I can see you've put into this. So let's see if we have any questions for Billy specifically coming in via the Q&A, and also for Suzanne while we've got her in the room, in the virtual room, as it were. And I can already see there's some interest here. So first of all, probably one for Suzanne here. How do you see values, culture, and belonging in leadership coming together?
It's a great question. And I've been not really naming a lot of things, because otherwise I'd keep you all here for the 5 days of the leadership program. But values, I think, are the bedrock, aren't they? And how do your values fit with the values of the organization? They won't always be 100% aligned, but if there isn't enough overlap, you will then find that the culture grates on you. So someone was saying to me yesterday, he works in social housing. If he was working for a social housing organization which was totally about the properties, he would have to leave. But he's working in one where it's also about what it's like to live in the property. So it's about the people. So I think values drive culture, and those two things together will either create a very transactional organization or one where people really belong. I personally think that we almost over-egg this idea that everybody moves all the time. My experience of people that I work with, literally hundreds every year, is that many people want to buy into an organization and stick with it. And they want to be, at times, they will be conflicted between their values and what they're being asked to do, but they can hold in balance the organizational values, their values, and what they're paid to do. Because if you are paid to do a job and you don't do it, you're not servicing. So authenticity, both to the organization and the role, and to the values. And if that's not creating belonging and a bit like putting the man on the moon. And I love it now. It's about to help mankind understand the heavens. I love that from a group of scientists. I can buy into that. So I can work for NASA. I'm a bit short to be an astronaut, but I just think they're critical. But how often do we sit and think, well, what are my values, or how have they shifted? And we do something called an equalizer, where sometimes your values pop up and down. And if one comes up, well, I don't think you can do that, something else will go down. And how do you balance that? And in organizations, I don't think you hear enough conversation about, again, Narendra's thing, the challenge. I think if you all stop flying first class, this would really say we are serious about reducing cost. So there's something about alignment. And if you're not aligned on those things, then you're doing the opposite of creating an organization I can belong to, aren't you? You're creating one that I feel dissonance from.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Suzanne. And we've got another question here from Maria. How do you enable leaders to influence their teams and even broader groups of people around them, which might be crucial to make changes real?
Behind this lies a lot, but my simple answer is be yourself, do it your own way. One of the things we're really keen to dispel the myth in the first sort of half an hour of people being at Henley is there's no one right way, but there's better and worse ways for you. So what is your best way of influencing? Mine and Narendra's is similar and different. Mine and David's will be similar and different. If we think there's only one way, you're not going to influence anyone. And I know you're going to get more on being influential and inspiring shortly, but it really is important. And we talk a lot about trust. We talk a lot about building relationships, and so on.
Really good. And on cue, Becky P is coming with a question. I was just thinking, actually, could I think of something to ask Billy after your really interesting session there? So, and give Suzanne a bit of a break. So, Billy, interesting one for you here. How do you show up as your best authentic leader self, despite all the other pressures, challenges being dealt with? I'd be really interested to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, very happy to answer that. I think it's Suzanne mentioned it in passing. It's the basics around remember to breathe. That's a really good one. And Suzanne teaches us a technique, 4-box breathing. And it really is just grounding yourself. And I guess that allows you to focus on the job in hand. But I think breathing is a phenomenally easy thing to forget to do. And I'm so glad she said that, because it reminded me to breathe before I started the session today. So I think that was one of my key takeaways. And also the course stretches into a bit around well-being, you know, looking after yourself. And the course actually taught me again how to sleep. So I think it does stem from, you know, you can, if you're looking after yourself, you know, putting your oxygen mask on, then you can start to help others. So I think, yeah, just going back to those basics: sleep well, eat well, exercise well. That's all covered on the course, would you believe? And then, yeah, just remember to breathe.
Thanks very much. And we're keen to continue this theme with you, Billy, while we've got you here. We can obviously see that it's had a massive impact on you, both personally and professionally. So was the experience what you expected when you signed up for the program? How did it differ from that in terms of your expectations?
No, I mean, to be honest, I was asked to explain why I chose the course. I didn't. I was put on it. I was sent on the course. Read into that what you will. There was a bunch of us from my business that were sent here. And to be honest, I just arrived and I didn't know what to expect. But I realised pretty quickly I was on a journey, placed safely in the hands of Suzanne and Graham and Simon. And I had to kind of go with it. But I don't want to give too much away because it is quite a unique course. So I'm not hiding anything. I think you just have to go on the experience yourself. And yeah, we did start to joke about the Henley Head Hospital, which is where we felt we were some of the time, but we emerged, you know, different forms of ourselves. And I'm truly grateful for it.
Thanks, Billy. And picking up on this theme, actually, before we kind of get towards the conclusion of this session, it's obviously had an impact on you. But Suzanne, tell us a little bit about the coaching element within this program, because it's absolutely fundamental, isn't it? And something that perhaps people aren't aware of, but a core component of the TLP program.
Yeah, and I think that's around, I was trying to allude to it, but that is around the fact that my situation, who I am and where I'm at will be different to where, say, Billy is at. And so what happens on the program is there are different people in different places. And if you've got a space where you could say, look, you know, I'm sometimes a bit arrogant, or I'm sometimes a bit fearful, and you can do that openly and reflect on how that is stacking up for you and what people are saying to you about how you're doing at work. That is very powerful, combined with delegates talking to them each other about, this is where I'm at. And sometimes you'll find, God, you're really good at this, how do you do that? And you'll go, well, this is how I do that, but I don't know how you do that. That's really, and so you're sharing that. And I think there's some of it is deeply personal. So some of the coaching might end up being very business. You know, I am the head of my own business. These are my strategic challenges. And, you know, some of the team are really great at digging into that. We've all been senior leaders. And then someone like me, if you haven't guessed already, I have a small therapeutic practice, and I will dig into. So, you know, we've had quite a lot of people come through from the army, and some of them have been dealing with PTSD, haven't been able to shake it off, come on the program. And I use something called NLP, which some of you will love, some of you will hate, and some of you will think, what on earth is that? Contact us if you want to know more. Neuro-linguistic programming, but fast techniques for shifting where you are. And so I'm working at that end. And that won't be appropriate for everyone. I noticed that someone mentioned, what's the connection here? This was builders leading with purpose. Well, the whole point is, if I don't know what I'm about and I can't buy into what I want to achieve, how on earth can I buy into what the organization wants to achieve, what my team wants to achieve? And again, I love Narendra's difference in perspective there. You know, if I'm a really senior leader, it's all about shareholders. If I'm in the middle, it's all about markets and position and customers and what they want. You need to know where you stand on that to be able to fully embrace and engage what the lovely Brett has said. My values are so strongly linked to the company I work for and its culture. It's absolutely the reason why I'm 25 years of service. And that, you know, that's just wonderful, isn't it? But not for everyone, and that's wonderful too.
Yeah, really, really useful insight, Suzanne, to bring us towards bring us to the end of the Q&A. Actually, not towards the end, to the end. So thank you very, very much for that insight and the fantastic presentation interactive one that you shared with us earlier. And obviously a big thank you as well to Billy for her insights and interactions, as we said earlier. So as we come towards the conclusion of the programme, I just wanted to share with you some upcoming details. As you can see there's a lovely building at Greenlands being photographed from the Thames, which you can't see, but here's some details of our upcoming cohorts. And yes, it does include a stay on site in our fantastic accommodation. The hotel is but 100 yards from that building that you see. So yes, we have cohorts in June and October, and they are in person, as we've previously explained. So 5 days followed by a 2-day follow-up in both cases. You can book online, or you can inquire via the email address listed, and speak with a member of the team. Just seeing this question pop up, yes, the cost does include the coaching within the programme. And we're always keen to have conversations with people and hear from prospective participants. It really does provide, good insight to us as an organisation to kind of hear from different roles, different industries. So we welcome those confidential conversations. Once again, thank you very much for your time and participation this morning, and for hopefully all of those of you staying. We'll see you very shortly.